Trace what?
Mathis.
What are you going to do today, Trace?
I'm going to teach you about Roman history during the New Testament.
Okay. All right, so can I just ask you some questions?
Yes, sir.
So, can you give us a list
Yes.
of the Roman emperors and sort of the dates that they ruled, if you can remember, from the time of Jesus' birth
Yes.
to the end of the first century?
Got it.
Okay? So who was first?
Augustus.
Augustus Caesar. And when did he reign?
Between 27 BC and 14 AD.
So can you tell us some important things about Augustus?
He defeated my second worst enemy, Mark Antony.
Why was Mark Antony your second worst enemy?
A number of reasons that I don't have time to listen.
Okay. What are some other things that Augustus did?
It was during his reign that the Rome suffered a disastrous defeat in the Teutoburg Forest, and Jesus was born.
Okay. Did he do any great things?
The former,
Did,
by defeating Antony.
well, he defeated Antony. Did he bring? Did they claim that he brought peace?
He didn't.
But they claimed it, right?
Right.
What did they call it? Do you remember?
The Pax Romana.
Okay.
He also conquered the tribes in northern Spain near the area inhabited by the Basques.
Okay.
He also conquered Egypt.
Which was your favorite because he defeated Mark Antony.
And that's most of all.
Okay. So, who followed him? Who was the emperor after Augustus?
Tiberius.
Okay. Can you tell us anything about Tiberius?
When Jesus did his ministry.
Okay. And
he-
what were... Go ahead.
Tiberius killed a lot of people.
He did?
Yes.
What for?
Numerous reasons.
Okay. What years did he reign?
Easy. Between 14 AD and 37 AD.
Okay. All right. And so was he a pretty bad guy? Did he do anything good during that time? Not really?
But he's not that bad when you compare him to the next,
Well, let's tell us who's next.
Caligula.
So what years did Caligula reign?
37 AD to 41 AD.
So not very long, but he was pretty rough.
He was A, insane, and B, mine, and B, a horsey boy.
A horsey boy, okay.
He loved horses.
He loved horses.
He got his horse appointed as a consul.
What? That's crazy. That tells you that letter A is true, right? That he's insane?
Yes.
Okay. What did his name mean?
Little Boots.
Little Boots. And who was his father?
Germanicus.
And what did Germanicus do?
He was killed by the emperor.
Why was he killed by the emperor?
I have no clue.
So Claudius killed Germanicus?
Yes.
Oh, wow. But then he made his son,
Yes.
Caesar, after him.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Caligula was murdered after 3 days, after 4 weeks, after a short time in office.
4 years, is that right?
Yes.
He was murdered.
Because the people had because his soldiers had enough
Of the
this
insanity.
and they appointed Claudius.
So Caligula was followed by Claudius.
Who
So when did
conquered Britain
Claudius conquered Britain? What
Yes.
years did he reign?
from 41 AD to 54 AD.
41 to 54. So what was taking place from 41 to 54 in the Bible?
Paul's missions.
Paul's missions, 41 to 54. All right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Then Do you remember anything that happened with the Jews and the Christians during Claudius's reign?
He expelled the Jews.
He expelled all of the Jews from Rome. Do you remember what year that happened?
No.
Okay. It's the first time there's something that I remember. It was around AD 49.
Around AD 49.
Okay. So, anything else important about Claudius besides conquering Britain?
No.
Okay.
Not that I can think of.
All right. So, who followed Claudius?
Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, also known as Nero, also known as my number one enemy.
So, Nero is your number one enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And what years did he reign?
Simply, 54 AD to 68 AD.
54 AD to 68 AD.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some things that happened during Nero's reign that are important?
But there's one thing I have to note.
Okay.
Nero did not fiddle while Rome burned.
He did not.
Because A, the fiddle wasn't invented, and B, he wasn't even in Rome on the day in question.
Okay. Why did folks think that Rome was behind, or that Nero was behind the burning of Rome? What did Nero want to do?
He confiscated land.
What was he wanting to build on the confiscated land?
A pleasure palace.
Oh dear.
That symbolizes his tyranny.
Oh my. Okay. Did anything significant happen to characters in the Bible during Nero's reign?
But there's one thing I have to note.
What?
None of this is mentioned in the Bible.
That's true.
It's mentioned by theologians, and who can sometimes, I'm just guessing.
You mean the historians?
Yes.
So, what do you mean? I'm confused.
Well.
Let me ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Who did Nero blame for the burning of Rome?
Christians.
He blamed the Christians for the burning of Rome.
And he burned them alive.
Okay, did he kill anybody
Yes.
that we know in the Bible?
Peter and Paul.
Peter and Paul?
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably around AD 66, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Nero, how did Nero become Caesar?
He was adopted by Claudius.
Was Claudius married to his mom?
Yes.
Okay.
And then.
Did Claudius die under suspicious circumstances?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, so Nero. What happened to Nero? How did Nero's reign end?
Well, you see, in 66 AD, a revolt broke out in Judea.
Okay.
And then.
This is important to know for what happens in Jerusalem. That's right.
Then Nero. Then, in 3 years into the revolt, the people of Rome had had enough of Nero. So Nero slit his throat.
Because were they about to kill him?
Yes.
Okay, so who was leading?
And following that.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Mm-hmm.
Who was leading the siege of Jerusalem in 66?
Vespasian.
Okay, Vespasian. All right.
You see.
So what happens after Nero commits suicide?
The year of the 4 emperors, because shockingly, there were 4 emperors in a single year.
That's kind of crazy. So
the first one was Galba, who ruled from December to February.
Okay.
Then Otho, who ruled from February to sometime in June, March, or May.
It's not altogether clear?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But then Vitellius, who reigned until late December. Then Vespasian took over.
So Vespasian came back from
Yes.
Jerusalem in AD 69.
Yes.
All right.
Big old imperial crisis was over.
So did he end the imperial crisis?
Yes.
All right. So Vespasian becomes the emperor.
Yes.
Was there anything important about Galba, Otho, or Vitellius?
No.
Okay. And who did Vespasian leave behind in Jerusalem?
His son Titus.
All right.
Who in 70 AD destroyed Jerusalem down to its foundations.
Okay. Is there anything in present day Rome that
Yes,
memorializes?
the Arch of Titus.
And who built the Arch of Titus?
We'll get to him shortly.
Okay, great. So Vespasian is the emperor.
Yes, and he began building the Colosseum.
Vespasian begins building the Colosseum. Did Vespasian start a new
Yes,
line
the
of emperors?
Flavians.
The Flavians. So what was the group up to Nero called?
The Julio-Claudians.
The Julio-Claudians.
And
Okay.
And then,
So how long does Vespasian rule?
from 69 to 79 AD.
Okay. Is there anything significant about Vespasian's rule?
Yes,
What's that?
because it started an age, Rome's second golden age,
Okay.
that would last until the year 192, which started a big old imperial crisis began.
So who died in 192?
Commodus.
But things really kind of messed up after the death of whom? Who was Commodus's father?
Marcus Aurelius.
Ah, yes. Commodus was not a good Caesar, right?
Right.
Okay. So Vespasian rules from 69 to
79.
79.
And and another thing is he died before Pompey was buried.
Before Pompey was buried.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the only significant. And during Titus's reign, from 79 to 81 AD,
What happened during Titus's reign?
in the first few months, Pompey was buried.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Titus follows his father. And was there anything significant about Titus following his dad?
He completed the Colosseum.
He completed the Colosseum.
Mhm.
And wasn't he I think you told me that he was the first biological son
Yeah.
of any of the Caesars?
He besieged. He was able to also stage real life naval battles in the Colosseum.
Wow. Did he also persecute Christians?
That's unclear.
Okay. It's not clear? Okay. So that's a really cool thing about the naval battles.
Then
Who follows Vespasian? Or Titus, sorry.
his brother Domitian, who was terrible.
Domitian was terrible. So what years did Domitian reign?
81 AD to 96 AD.
81 to 96. So he ruled for 15 years. That's a long time.
Not when you compare it,
Not compared to Augustus, for sure.
or that's very, yes, not.
So what are some things that happened during Domitian's reign?
He persecuted Christians,
He did that a lot.
and he attempted
Attempted what?
to invade Dacia.
Did that not go well?
No.
Where is Dacia, just in case?
Modern day Romania and Hungary.
Okay.
It
What
was
happened?
also during his reign that he dispatched a man named Agricola, who conquered most of Britain, including parts of Scotland. About 5 seconds later, he lost parts of most of Scotland.
So he won a little bit of Scotland and then they ran him out?
Mhm.
Okay. Those Scottish are pretty tough, aren't they?
Mhm.
All right. So Domitian, His reign
He
ends.
was murdered.
Murdered?
Yes.
By whom?
By one of his slaves.
Oh dear, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who was he followed by?
He was followed by Nerva, who ruled for 2 years. Then.
Now, was Nerva a Flavian?
No.
Okay. Was Domitian the end of the Flavian dynasty?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Who follows after Nerva?
His adopted son Trajan.
So Trajan becomes Caesar in 98.
Yes, and
Okay.
ruled until 117 AD.
Oh, so he ruled 19 years. Okay.
Yes, and he began with an invasion of Dacia and conquered it by 107 AD.
Okay.
He then expanded east to Iraq
Wow.
and captured parts of the Parthian Empire.
Which Rome had never been able to do, right?
And about 5 seconds later, these gains evaporated.
Really? What happened?
Trajan died and was succeeded by his cousin Hadrian,
Okay.
who spent most of his time traveling around the empire.
Okay.
He also built Hadrian's Wall.
Or he had people build it, right?
Yep, and it does not mark the border between Scotland and England. And in fact, all of it is in England.
That's a very important thing to know. And it's important also to think about with the Parthians, did Rome ever have a lot of success in war against the Parthians?
It did.
It had a lot of success or did not have a lot of success?
Well, you see, its first war went poorly. Crassus was defeated at the Battle of Carrhae due to the Parthians' excellent horse archers.
In what year was that?
53 BC.
Okay.
Then the Parthians invaded in 42 BC and made great gain. They made staggering progress. They took Syria, except for Tyre, Phoenicia. They installed an anti-Roman Antigonus II as king of Judea. They pushed through Cilicia and to Ionia.
So that's on the eastern side of Rome.
Turkey.
Okay. Which is east of Rome, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But then Antony hired one of his best general, Ventidius, who defeated the Parthians 3 times in a row.
Okay.
Because he had the high ground.
Okay.
Then Antony invaded Parthia, and his campaign failed tactically, strategically, and in some cases, morally.
Okay.
Then, the next few years saw several other wars.
So the reason why that's kind of important for the New Testament is when we get to the book of Revelation and it talks about the danger from the east and invasion from the east, it's most likely that John, who writes it, during most likely the reign of Domitian, around AD 94, 95, 96,
John
something
was the lucky apostle.
Yes, because John didn't...
He was not martyred.
He was not martyred. Where do you remember where he was when he wrote Revelation?
He was on the Roman Alcatraz.
That's right.
Patmos.
That's correct. And so when John talks about this invasion from the east, it's most likely that his readers, particularly since they lived in Turkey, would have been concerned about
the
invasion from the Parthians. That's right.
But the fall of the Parthian Empire in 224 did
AD?
little to
224
stop
AD?
the hostilities, as its successor, the Sassanids,
They also warred with Rome?
and they even captured Roman Emperor Valerian in 263 AD.
So even though that's not during the time of the Bible,
Yes.
do you want to tell the students the cool part of the story of Valerian, and that's the way we'll end. It's also a little bit troubling, so brace yourselves. What did the Sassanids do to Valerian?
But first we have to do a background.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Valerian was an avid rabid persecutor of Christians.
I didn't know that.
But he met his downfall in the year 260 at the Battle of Edessa.
Okay.
The Persians annihilated his army.
Annihilated.
And took Valerian captive.
Okay.
There are two and by the Persian king Shapur the First. And Shapur was not a nice man.
He was not. I'm shocked.
One source said he was skinned alive and stuffed with straw.
That Valerian was?
But that's not the darkest story.
Okay.
There's an even darker story.
Oh my.
Valerian was forced to drink hot gold.
Wow.
And he was killed immediately.
I would imagine so.
The
end. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say to the students?
Yes.
What?
Here is it. This is it's that persecution reached its max in the 3rd century crisis.
The persecution of Christians?
Yes, reached maximum.
Okay. During the 3rd century crisis?
Especially during the reigns of 3 emperors.
Okay.
Decius, Valerian, and Diocletian.
Okay. And what brings the persecution to an end?
Constantine's victory at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge.
And why does it bring the persecution of Christians to an end?
Because Constantine converted shortly before the battle.
Okay.
And he took over Rome.
And
And published the Edict of Milan.
And what was the Edict of Milan?
It legalized Christianity.
There you go.
But Rome wasn't fully Christianized until 380 AD, when Emperor Theodosius I had a clever idea. He banned anything else.
But do you think that really accomplished, were people really believing in Jesus?
No.
So forced conversion is not ever good, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's not really conversion at all. All right, can you tell the students to have a great semester?
Have a great semester.
All right, bye-bye.